For the longest time, I was distracted between reps. Stressing about my low balance always took me out of my groove. That is, until DePaco added tools to help me see where my money's going, monitoring spending trends and sending tips on how to spend even smarter. I can even set my budget and organize my spending to save more, keeping my expenses down, all while keeping my rep count up. DePaco, your money, your tools. Open an account today. Learn more at depaco.com/shine.
All things Hawkeyes, your all-access pass. From courtside to the postgame. Iowa's News Now Sports presents Eye on the Hawks. Sponsored by DePaco Community Credit Union and Pin Seekers.
There's so many blue blood programs. I just want to kind of be that blue blood, blue collar blue blood, right?
Love that attitude out of Jan Jensen. Welcome to Eye on the Hawks with Mike Howell. I'm Owen Sebring, and thank you for joining us for another episode as we're going to be recapping both Iowa women, their win over Michigan, and we're going to be looking forward to maybe the next couple weeks and what is left of the regular season for the Hawkeye men's and women's basketball teams. As always, we want to thank Pin Seekers for helping us tee things up here on Eye on the Hawks as we come to you from the DePaco studio. So first off, Mike, let's talk about the big game on Sunday. I mean, both the men and women played on Sunday, but the women coming away with a better result, beating at the time, the 6th-ranked Michigan women's basketball team. So give me some overall impressions from what you saw to the team that day. Just, start-to-finish dominance, would you call it? Like, it seems like they just had
100%.
Overall 100% control of that game for the entire first second to the last minute.
I thought, I don't know if it's too much to say this is like the most impressive performance of the year from the Hawkeye team. I think me and you both came into it last week. I know Michigan's obviously, we thought Iowa could win,
sure,
but we just thought that that Michigan probably was too high powered. They're the 6th-ranked team in the nation. They had a lot of offensive firepower.
Olivia Olson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Swords is a good three-point shooter. I think we thought it was going to be very difficult. Even knowing that Iowa beat up, Maryland, Ohio State, Michigan State.
Right.
Michigan gave UCLA a test earlier in the season, which not a lot of teams actually have. So it was just a super impressive victory. I thought that first, when she was talking about blue collar, like blue blood, there were like 5 or 6 jump balls in the first 5 minutes. I was tallying them on my phone. I was like, this is insane. I've never seen this before.
It's true.
I didn't keep the tally the entire game. I don't know if there was another one, but man, it was just high intensity. Kylie Feuerbach, I think she only had around 8 points, if I'm remembering correctly. But her defense was just something that's not on the stat sheet. Super impressive, locking up Olivia Olson, or was that her name?
Olivia Olson, yeah.
Yeah, all right, that's what I thought. I thought I messed it up again. But no, it was just impressive.
Yeah, I would say, there have been a few that could maybe qualify as the most impressive win, like that when they beat number 12 Ohio State 91-70. That was a really
Maryland on the road. You don't. They hardly ever win on the road at Maryland.
That would have felt a lot better if they hadn't blown an enormous lead in the final 2 minutes. Then that might have qualified. But this one certainly, I'd be really curious, and this is data that I don't have in front of me and would take a while to tally up, but how well Iowa plays on senior days. It seems like they usually have a pretty tough opponent on senior day. I just remember a couple years ago when Caitlin Clark, when it was her senior day, they were playing a really good – was that Ohio State as well? Or it was either Ohio State or Indiana that they were playing that day?
Ohio State.
It was Ohio State, yeah. And they beat up on them that day too, just another start-to-finish dominant game. It seems like there is – just a little more energy in the building when it is a senior day atmosphere. And that's what we had. Again, celebrating the 4 seniors with Hannah, Kylie, Jada, and who am I forgetting? Hannah, Kylie, Jada, and the 4th.
Oh.
Help me out, Howell.
I'm blanking.
This is embarrassing. We have Hannah, Kylie, Jada, Taylor McCabe, of course.
Oh, of course, because she's not playing.
Yeah.
That's why.
Easy to forget at this point. But
number 2 Ohio State was Caitlin's. The 24 was their senior year, right? They won 93-83, and it goes before that. It goes beyond that as well. If you go back, let's see where the Indiana was 2nd ranked, and they beat them 86-85.
That was the buzzer beater game, right?
Yeah,
that Caitlin had. Yeah,
the year before, and then 21-22, number 6 Michigan, 104-80.
They beat number 6 Michigan that year?
Yeah, 21-22.
Weird that it was the same
I know,
ranking,
right?
same ranking on a senior
And the
day.
broadcast, did you watch the broadcast?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, my sister had a baby, so I was up in Mason City visiting
okay.
family. So, yes, didn't catch
They
much of that
they
game.
said something Michigan hadn't won in Carver for a long period of time,
Really?
and yeah, I was kind of shocked because Michigan's usually pretty good.
Yeah, they're a kind of hit or miss on the year. It seems like I just remember when they were, of course, the team that Caitlin Clark broke the scoring record against, and I remember that year thinking like, this is not. I mean, they're okay.
Yeah, they
but,
were maybe
not a ranked team, maybe hovering outside of the top 25. So. Yeah, it seems like they're a hit or miss program, but there are years where I do remember Caitlin actually lost on the road to Michigan. I think maybe her sophomore or junior season. So yeah, they're a team that can get you if they're getting you on a good day. So, but maybe most importantly is that is the game that really seems to solidify their place in the Big Ten tournament, if not even the NCAA tournament. Like that seems to be the game where okay, now your path really is in front of you, where like totally everything, even though. Whatever, 3 weeks ago, your destiny is in your own hands. Now it really seems to come to fruition a little bit more that it's like, okay, just don't screw it up, and you're going to have a really good seed at the Big Ten tournament, and you're going to have 2 home games for the NCAA tournament as well. Like, it seems like a lot would have to go wrong for them not to host an NCAA tournament game at this point.
I'll do you one. I don't think there is a way. I mean, I think they got 3 games left, 2 in the regular season, 1 in the Big Ten tournament, which will be a Friday game. There's only one scenario and there might be another one that I could find, that Iowa was a 5 seed or lower, and it was only the 5 seed. That's if they lose out and Ohio State wins out. They could lose out and if Ohio State goes 1-1 and Ohio State plays or hosts Michigan coming up. If that happens, where Ohio State wins both their last 2 games and Michigan wins the other one and their other game, and Iowa drops 2, they would be a 5 seed.
Right.
But I was in that tiebreaker website a few nights ago looking up to see any other variation. I was at worst a 4 seed. I think they're going to win the next 2 games.
Yeah. I do too, and that's why I only say like if, and they don't screw up it, because if they were to lose to a fringy good top 25 Illinois team, and then if they lose to a not so good Wisconsin team, and then if they lose in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, it's hard to see any of those things happening. But if worse comes to worse and that does happen, then I would say they might get bumped out of a hosting game. But even just one more win, and that's going to lock up no matter what, hosting a couple of NCAA tournament games, which is great news for Hawkeye fans. They can be assured of not having to travel anywhere, and all you got to do is win the games that you're supposed to win from here on out. And I know you and I on the phone yesterday were talking about Big Ten tournament scenarios where it seems like also like no matter what they're going to be 2 seed. Is that like, I mean, again, winning out, you're going to be the 2 seed, right?
If you win out, you're the 2 seed.
Even if they win just one game, are they the 2 seed?
No.
Okay.
There's a lot of different scenarios where if they just win one, I think Minnesota's in play. Michigan's obviously in play, but they play Ohio State, and that's always a rivalry game. So I think we'll know the scenarios after when there's only one game left. So by the weekend, we should know, kind of like what winning your 2 seed, winning your or losing your blah, 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 a 3 seed or whatever. But the 2 is definitely, if you win both games, you will get that 2 seed, just because you have the tiebreaker with Michigan. So I guess if there's a tiebreaker, and I don't even know if this is possible. Let me look at the standings. If there's a tiebreaker 3-way between Iowa, Minnesota, and Michigan, it might get dicey. I don't know if that's possible, though. But that 2 seed is tricky. Let me pull up the women's Big Ten bracket. I think one of the first games you could play is Maryland on the Friday, but that's not a bad loss. So even if you lost that, it's not going to hurt you that much.
Right. Minnesota right now, I mean, gosh, they were playing so great. They'd won 3, 6, 7, 8 in a row, and then they lost to they beat Ohio State and then lost to Michigan State over the weekend. Otherwise, they'd be probably a top 20 team right now. And Minnesota's only game they have remaining is at Illinois as well. So do with that information what you will.
So they only got 1 left.
They only have 1 left, correct.
And Iowa's got 2 games. So essentially, if Michigan and Iowa would have to lose out, they'd all be at 15-5. And if Minnesota, you say they have 1 game left or 2?
Minnesota only has 1 game left. Michigan has 2. They play Ohio State and Maryland.
Okay, so that's not a possible scenario.
Okay.
They've already got too many games under the belt.
Minnesota or Michigan?
Minnesota.
Okay. So Iowa's basically guaranteed 2 or 3 seed at this point.
No, they could be a 4.
They still could be a 4 if they lose these last 2 games.
Yeah, Ohio State can still jump back in.
Gotcha. Well, nevertheless, we're still keeping you covered here on Eye on the Hawks, and we'll be again. Nothing is booked yet, but it sounds like we're going to be over there in Indianapolis covering the Big Ten Women's Tournament again. 3rd straight year that you and I have traveled to Women's Big Ten Tournament.
That's true. Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah, doing a lot of travel. Log a lot of rows on the miles with you, Mike.
Minnesota the first year, and then we went to Indianapolis last year.
Right. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I forgot that was in Minneapolis when Caitlin was a senior. So let me ask you this. Do you make much of, because if there was any conversation going around on X yesterday, it was that Iowa just beat Michigan, and they have the same record, and still, when the top 25 is revealed, both AP and the coaches poll, Michigan is still ahead of Iowa in the poll. Is that something frustrating for you as a fan?
It's frustrating, like on the surface level, but when you take a look at what those polls are, it's not like a group of people coming and be like, all right, let's move this team here. People are all putting in their different ballots, and then they're just getting a point total, right?
Right.
So what really annoys me is that one Bay Area, you probably saw.
I did.
I'm not going to name her just because I don't really, I don't want any hate to go our way. But she listed Iowa 18th in the country.
And Michigan like
4th.
4th.
It's like, okay, you don't think Iowa's good, even though they have, I think they have, I haven't checked across the country, but at least with the potential 2 seeds that I put on a graphic that we'll see coming up a little later, they have the most ranked wins at 7. I bet UConn has more, but at any rate, they have 7 ranked wins.
UConn doesn't play as many ranked teams just because they're conference, so it's
they play a lot in the non-con.
Sure,
it seems every year. But I guess there's no justification in Iowa at 23-5. That's the record, right? 22-5 is 18th in the country. Like, what are you doing?
It's frustrating. I was just counting up UConn's ranked wins for 5. Yeah, they only have 5 ranked wins actually.
I try USC. I can't imagine that they have the most ranked wins, and Iowa hasn't tweeted that out yet.
That's true. Iowa is 22-5. I did see that Iowa now has matched the program record for ranked wins in a regular season.
Yeah, that's my stat that I put in the.
Okay. Sorry to spoil your upcoming stat. But,
like I mentioned, because we naturally were talking about it, Iowa has 7 ranked wins this season. Do you know the last year they had it? Because it ties the record.
Yes.
At least the ranked wins in the program go back to 89-90 season. Before that, like in the program, there's no numbers, so I assume that they just didn't count who was ranked. Right. I don't know if rankings were new in women's basketball.
If the AP had polls back then, yeah, exactly. Like they may not have.
Maybe an old timer can let us know what happened back in, because I was born in '89, so that was.
Yeah, I was surprised at the years that were on there because it was not either of Caitlin's junior senior years. Like it was not a Final Four team that had the ranked wins record, was it?
No. So I tweeted this right after the game on Sunday because I wanted to look it up to see how many ranked wins Caitlin got. The 4 years Caitlin was here, 2021, they had 1 ranked win.
Wow.
A lot of ranked losses. If you remember, there were a lot of losses there. They still made the tournament, and, I think they went to the Sweet 16 that year, right?
Sweet 16 lost to UConn, yeah.
21-22, 3. This is just in the regular season, by the way. Okay. 3 ranked wins.
Wow.
22-23, her junior year, they had 5. And her senior year, they had 4.
Really?
Yeah.
And that might, it is keeping in mind that, like, again, USC, UCLA, the West Coast teams were not in the Big Ten back then, so the landscape of the conference did look a little bit different.
That is true, but there were I don't want to say a lot, but there were multiple ranked losses each year.
Were there? Okay, yeah.
They struggled with Maryland on occasion. The Michigan, when Michigan was good,
Indiana was really good. Yeah, yeah. It's like even those years, I seem to recall. I remember thinking this Caitlin's senior year that the Big Ten had a good justification to be the best conference in the country when Caitlin was a senior. I remember the SEC had they had USC and LSU were very good, but like most of the year they had no other ranked team outside of those two. And the Big Ten at any point in the year seems like they would have 5 or 6 ranked teams. So opportunities were there. So that is interesting. So what were the other seasons that they had 7 ranked wins? Do you have those in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
2012, 2013. This is Morgan Johnson was the leading scorer. Samantha Logic was on the team. Jamie Printy, Melissa Dixon, Tiara Taylor.
All these names I know except that first one. You said
Morgan Johnson. She was a center.
Okay, I don't remember this person. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't either until I looked her up, and because that was the year after I graduated, and she was kind of like one of Jane Jensen's like post player, one of those.
Logic, that must have been early in the Logic.
It was
era,
her sophomore year.
Okay, yeah.
So they had 7 that year, and there were 2 other times. 95-96, Angie Lee was the coach. That was I think their first season.
Yeah, they were really good that year.
I think they went to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 that year.
Okay.
I don't have that up. I just noted the wins each year. And then 93-94 was C. Vivian Stringer. Mm-hmm. Not their Final Four year, though. Wow. The year after their Final Four.
I remember that year they had like a crazy regular season record that season, I believe, after that same season.
The Final Four team only had 5 regular season ranked wins.
Really?
So,
So how far did they go in that 2012-13 season? Where did they finish?
I think they got bounced in the second round.
Really?
Well, they had to have, or the first round, because Lisa Bluter hadn't made the Sweet 16 until 2015. I was looking at the
Not
Wikipedia.
at all?
Not at all.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That does shock me. Yeah. I mean, again, for people who are listening right now that think I'm an idiot for not knowing that, it's like, keep in mind, I did not get raised a Hawkeye fan. I went to UNI. Like, I didn't really, most of my Hawkeye knowledge comes from the last decade or so. But still, that is pretty remarkable. I know I have heard the stories about that, how the Gustafson era was so crucial to Lisa Bluter's, like, not just legacy, but career. Like, she was kind of talking about, like, okay, does Bluter got to go? Can she win the big game? Can she get us a deep run in the tournament?
So that year in 2012, 2013, they were a 9 seed. They beat Miami in the first round and lost to Notre Dame, a 1 seed in the second.
Oh, gosh, so they had that many ranked wins and still just got a 9 seed?
Yeah.
Man.
The record was 21-13.
So they lost a ton of games that they shouldn't have lost. I mean, that if they're winning 7 ranked games, then they must have lost a ton to teams that were worse than them. Wow. How interesting. But okay, good stat, good info brought up to us by Mike. I like those numbers. But yeah, the going back to the rank conversation about having Michigan above Iowa, it is partially frustrating only to me, like as an AP voter, and like knowing how the system works and knowing the amount of work that I put into it and really trying to follow games on a daily basis, that it's like clearly this person in the Bay Area that made this ballot with Michigan still 4 and Iowa 18 or whatever, and all the people that rank Michigan above Iowa, I just can't quite see the justification there for anybody to have Michigan still hours after a head-to-head matchup to rank them ahead. I'm like, are you guys just not following the games at all? Do you just fill out your ballot, copy paste, and okay, it's probably good enough to put in next week? Like, that's the only thing that frustrates me, is like, are people not putting in the work that they should to at least keep up with the games in the women's game?
Yeah, and not only that, Eric, could you skip to the second graphic that I put in? Like, Iowa isn't a team that has like a weak non-con schedule or a weak schedule. I made this as a topic for later discussion, comparing the 2 seeds that were in Charlie Cream's bracket on Friday when he published. Mm-hmm. And if you look at this, like Iowa's, their net's ranked 9th, Vandy's 7, LSU's 5. If you look at their quad 1, I mean, Iowa's tied for the most out of all those teams with 7. Now they have the most losses at 5, tied with Michigan. But when you look at these resumes, like, what's the difference? There's really not much difference. They're all pretty close.
Unless you are judging your rankings off of quad 3 or 4 wins, like Iowa stacks up like better than Michigan in almost every aspect here. So not that I expect voters to look at the net and the quad 1 wins and all that stuff, that you just are chasing chasing the dragon when you're trying to find all of these different rankings or metrics to try to base your top 25 on. Like, at the end of the day, you do just kind of have to like decide what you want. But still, after a head-to-head game, it just seems so ludicrous.
And I made this graphic because last night I was like, man, should Iowa be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament? And after looking at the resumes, and Louisville and Louisville and LSU, I think Vandy have more wins overall, but I think Iowa has, you could say, a stronger resume with the ranked wins. Charlie Cream updated his bracketology today, and Iowa is a 2 seed projected.
Right. Yeah.
So that is realistic. That's on the table after this win. Great win. You just had to close out these last 2 games.
Yeah. I should say, too, for in the defense of AP voters, the coaches poll is the exact same with Michigan at 8 and Iowa at 9. Cannot figure this one out, frankly. Yeah, looking at the rankings right now, I mean, again, if the seeds were based off of the rankings, which they are not, you got to think your 1 seeds are probably going to be UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, and probably either Texas, Vandy, or LSU. One of those teams will be a 1 seed in there, and then those two that don't make the 1, I assume that those would also be the 2 seed, and then you have Oklahoma and probably it's going to depend on conference tournaments, but probably Iowa and Louisville and Michigan and maybe TCU will be in the conversation there.
Sure, yeah, and just for transparency, like those 5 teams were all 2 seeds except Louisville got bumped and Iowa took their spot.
I see.
So, yeah, I mean, you could get a couple more good wins too in the Big Ten tournament. That's not out of the question. But I think you're in the driver's seat now. Obviously, these predictive metrics, these projections, we don't actually know what the committee is going to do. They released 2 or 3 weeks ago the top 4 bracket season. I don't think Iowa was involved, but that was before a couple good wins. So take that with a grain of salt. So you don't actually know what's going to happen, but I think Iowa has a really good shot with the resume they have to get one of those top seeds.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I know we're going to be hearing from Jan Jensen here. You want to tee up this soundbite from Jan?
Yeah, this soundbite is basically just kind of she describes it's more about the Michigan game itself and how they were able to get that win.
I think the beginning, wasn't real pretty at the beginning, right? I think both teams were pretty tight. We're both played pretty hard defensively, and I think everybody was just tight. And, turnovers, I mean, how many jump balls, right? Bailey was saying we probably set a record for those. But then, when it kind of started to loosen up, especially that second half. But I think, again, it was our defense. They really, I think I told you guys, they really locked in on the scouts. We had a little time when we were reforming where I think we were a little loose with the scouts and knowing when and who. But we've really, really done a good job with that. We have the whole year. But I thought Kylie Feuerbach, again, with her defense leading the way, Chat, on 12. I just felt like that tone really set us at the beginning, and then it withstood their hard defense because that press, they do a great job, and we didn't handle it well real early, but a lot of teams don't because it can kind of surprise you with the run and jump. Sometimes it's a slow down, but they're pretty long when they put 1 on the ball, 33 up there. So when we settled and then got that high-low going, I think that's when things really, really started to be a little better for us in the third.
And with that, we want to thank Penn Seekers again for helping us tease things off today on Eye on the Hawks. So let's take a look ahead at what Iowa has remaining for the schedule for the rest of the regular season. And as we've mentioned, only 2 games left against an Illinois team that is receiving votes right now. Let me take a look at how far outside of the.
They've got like 2 votes.
Oh, really? Okay. So
if I remember correctly, you might want to check that.
They've slipped a little bit. Oh, I just noticed that Iowa State actually got back into the coaches' top 25 poll. Surprised me a little bit after the loss they had last week to TCU. So let's scroll down here to the Big Ten. Illinois, very much in the middle of the conference. They've won 3 in a row. Wisconsin, Rutgers, and Northwestern. Not exactly great wins, but before that were losses to USC and Oregon. And their remaining schedule is 2 ranked opponents against Iowa and Minnesota. So Illinois staying relevant in the conversation, still looking really good in the net and the Bart Torvik rankings at 33 and 34. So that is, even though Iowa decided to have senior day against Michigan for that Sunday game, that still is going to be a tough opponent for Thursday night at 8 o'clock in Carver. And then the next game is the following. I believe the first is a Sunday.
This Sunday.
Yes, and that's going to be on the road at Wisconsin, a team that Iowa has a really incredible winning streak against. I would have to crunch the numbers again to look and see how many games in a row they've won against Wisconsin. But I know every year I'd look this up, and it's like they haven't lost to them since like 2007 or something like that. It's been a really long time just because that Wisconsin team is not usually a contender in the Big Ten. But, boy, looking at them at 81 in the net and 73 in the Torvik, it's like, have they been an actual, relevant team in the Big Ten this season?
They've lost 8 straight currently.
Okay. So growing less relevant by the week, it would seem.
They did, and this might say more about Nebraska. They beat, before this 8-game losing streak, they beat a ranked Nebraska team at 24. So
Really?
they probably got a lot of juice. And then, man, they gotten blown out in almost every game. I guess they almost beat Indiana 77-74, but and played ranked Washington tough, but just struggling. So they're going to try and break 2 long losing streaks when they play up in Camp Randall, the Kohl Center, on Sunday, which is a bummer. They play there because it's on Big Ten Plus, and this is like the 3rd game in 3 weeks that's been on Big Ten Plus, and I just refuse to pay for it.
Yeah, and
again, because I paid for it like for a month without using it because I thought I canceled it earlier in the season.
Have you? So you have watched some games on Big Ten Plus historically?
I usually buy it to start the season, and then they usually have a few like non-conference men and women's games, like in November, so I'll watch those. Then I'll cancel it. This is the first year I feel like they've had Iowa women multiple conference games on there. It's kind of annoying.
Pretty brutal, yeah, especially for some of these. I don't know. I mean, Iowa, Wisconsin is not exactly an important. Well, I guess I should say that for Purdue too. They beat the brakes off Purdue last week. That was another Big Ten Plus game that didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, it is tough. I was just going to say, there was conversation about the quality of the broadcast out there when it is these Big Ten Plus games. I think that Kylie was called Kylie Fishback, something like that. So they're learning. Okay, yes. So I looked up at the media guide here. Iowa's last loss to Wisconsin was in the 06-07 season. They lost at Wisconsin 73-84.
That was like my junior year in high school. That's insane.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through and count all these wins, but it's at least 25 plus games here that they've beat Wisconsin.
I think that just highlights no matter what we think of this Wisconsin team, what they haven't 8 straight, whatever you beat. They're probably going to be super motivated to win this game no matter what. So, you cannot sleep on them.
Sure. Yeah, certainly. Especially depending on what happens next. It's an easy game for Iowa to, especially if Iowa were to get upset by Illinois, that would be, Iowa would definitely come out more motivated against Wisconsin. But if they beat Illinois, it certainly is a scenario where you could see Iowa sleepwalking through a little bit of that game, which, that doesn't say anything about Jan, but just the nature of college athletes, you sometimes do take off against an opponent that's lost, 8 games in a row. So that is one that you've got to watch out for, especially going to the Big Ten tournament. You want as much momentum as you can possibly get.
I have a hard time thinking that they won't take Illinois or have a struggle against Illinois. Just there's a couple of storylines, like Aaliyah Guyton coming back to Iowa City. I wonder if she'll get the Price Sanford treatment. I doubt it, just because the women's crowd is different than the men's crowd.
Yes.
But if you're looking at the scenarios, and again, last week I said I did not agree with the F. Price Sanford chance. She should get it worse, right? She didn't leave because of a coaching change. She left just because she wanted to leave.
Yeah,
and she went to a rival.
Because she thought that she maybe should get more playing time or something. I don't remember all the circumstances around, or obviously don't know the circumstances around why she wanted to leave, but maybe thought that there was more waiting for her when she over in Champaign-Urbana, which let me look up her profile this year and what she's been doing for the Illini. This season, her stats. So points per game, she's averaging 6.4 points a game. She has started 8 games for Nebraska. She started 6 in a row for them, so you'd imagine that she's probably going to be a starter when they come to Carver. But is that what she transferred to Illinois to get, averaging 6 points a game and starting less than a third of their games? Who knows? Grass is not always greener, but we'll see what the reception is when she comes to Carver. I'm sure there will be a healthy course of opponents for her when she comes to the arena. Were there a couple more graphics we wanted to look at? Did we have any Big Ten tournament stuff here that we were going to take a gander at?
We covered it already.
We've covered the graphics. Okay. Final thing that I do want to touch on for the women's game is one of the questions you put in here was just the biggest takeaway. After the Michigan game, do you have a major takeaway or something that really does stick with you that gives you confidence going ahead?
Well, I talked about Kylie Feuerbach, and there was a lot of discussion about, I guess it's more like random Twitter eggs, saying she needs to be benched. I think she's we know Taylor McCabe was almost the heart and soul of the team or whatever, and when she went out, they struggled. I think Kylie's up there. Obviously, she's an emotional leader. She's a defensive leader. Mm-hmm. She might not fill the stat box, but she had the highest plus minus in the Michigan game. She was plus 24. And,
Wow.
I don't take a lot of stock in plus minus, but it does when you're out there, if your team's doing well.
Yeah, it's something.
It's going to be a good number. Another thing, and Mitch had this, he'd made a little sports block in the 6 yesterday, and he was like, should Ava Hayden be an All-American? I think it's going to be tough for her to get at least first team, maybe second or third team.
Yeah.
But just because of the other players involved, when you're looking at an Audie Crooks, a Lauren Betts at center, you're not going to have 2 centers on there. You're probably going to have more guards than anything.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be very tough for her to make first team.
Yeah.
Or second team for that matter.
Right.
But because Sarah Strong is another big front court player that will probably be in the first team, if not the second team. But I thought we might want to talk about that. Double-double against Michigan, 24 points, 10 rebounds on 65 shooting from the field. She had 2 blocks too, and she's just been, when she's on, Iowa is really good.
Yeah, that was actually my big takeaway from the game as well, was Ava Hayden. Because this week she is she's the Associated Press National Player of the Week now, Naismith Player of the Week, Big Ten Player of the Week. She is getting a lot more national attention lately, and she's one of the 30 late season finalists for both the Naismith and the Wooden Awards. And something I said when those awards were coming out for the late season watch list was Ava Hayden is not going to win these awards or even be a finalist for these awards this year, but something to build on next year. Obviously, that is still true. She's not going to win these awards, but she is certainly gaining a lot of national attention for could she be a top 10 finalist for some of these awards? Could she? Yeah,
Sure.
Could she be an All-American? Yeah, one of the weird things again about All-American voting, just I know from the AP stuff, is we vote for 2 guards, 2 forwards, and 1 center. They kind of want the traditional lineup out there, and so you do only really have 1 center, which is going to be hard for her to leapfrog Lauren Betts and the performance that she puts out every night. But this
So
is
theoretically, her and Crooks couldn't be on it, right? Or could Crooks be on a forward? I don't know if she would. Iowa State, though, once they got Addie Brown back, they played a lot better. I think they're 17-1 with Addie Brown.
Yeah,
in the starting lineup.
they blew that huge lead against TCU the other day, so
That's
did
true.
lose that
So
one,
two losses with her.
So, Audie Crooks, it gets a little harder to make the case for her sometimes, just because with Addie out, they lost those 5 games in a row, and it's Audie, sometimes there were a lot of 12-point nights in there, and it's hard to say. I'm not even going to make the case that Ava is better than Audie at all.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's true that's another player that's just in the national conversation for first team All-American center. But yes, Ava certainly has a case to get some national recognition in these awards, in the AP or whatever other awards there are, that she could get maybe an All-American status, and she'd be close to first team All Big Ten again if it were not for Lauren Betts out there.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't mention was, and since you weren't able to watch the game because hanging out with your family or whatever, but she was sick on Sunday. She had to come out early because she was feeling like crap. Jan said after the game that they were kind of worried, maybe she wouldn't play. They had to sit her down and say, hey, if we need to go without you, if you're not feeling it. She came back in and played her butt off.
Yeah.
And then in the post game, she was there doing interviews, and you could hear her. She might sound like me right now, a little snuffly, just stuffy nose and stuff like that. So she wasn't even. You could say flu game, I guess.
I suppose so. And she's going to need a lot more of those here coming up for these next couple weeks and going into the Big Ten tournament. So let's transition now to the men's team. Again, a loss for the Hawkeyes on Sunday against a Wisconsin team that was ranked 24th at the time, I think.
They were, yeah.
Are they still ranked now, or did they fall out of the top 25 because they lost earlier in the week? So I think they might not be ranked anymore. I had them in my top 25 and dropped them out. So yeah, they are no longer ranked. They're the first team out in the AP poll, also first team out in the coaches poll. So just on the outside looking in. But again, just another kind of underwhelming performance for anybody who's not named Bennett Sturtz. He had another 23 points, a couple assists, 1 rebound. He had Tavion Banks in double figures with 10. Fulgaris with 11, Tate Sage with 11 off the bench. Tell me your biggest takeaway from watching that men's game.
I thought the offense, at least in the first half, played well. When you look at it, first half field goal percentage, they shot 56 from the floor, 45 from 3, and that was the big difference. That's why they were leading 31-40 at halftime. Mm-hmm. The defense, though, really, we talked about it. Can they consistently play defense like that, against Nebraska?
Exactly.
And they can't. And and a lot of that had to do with Nick Boyd. He played awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
It seems like Iowa always has trouble with these guards who can just go downhill, and they don't have two things. I think they're all good defenders, but we don't have that lockdown guy who can guard someone like Nick Boyd with quickness. You saw Sam Hoiberg in Nebraska. He was driving to the rim. Now, their shooting wasn't as good as Wisconsin. That's why they didn't actually win the game. And then there's no rim protector. Like, if they had a big rim protector, that can neutralize someone driving to the rim constantly, right? Mm-hmm. Or at least they have to kick it out.
Yeah.
But Wisconsin's shooting in the second half, from three, they shot 40% in the first half. Second half, close to 45. 4 for 9 from three, and it just killed Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was the defensive end and I think Ben said the same thing today. Like, they just didn't do a good job of just playing that team-oriented defense.
Yeah. Iowa 7 for 26 on 3-pointers against Wisconsin. Cooper Koch contributing to that number with a 2 for 10 performance.
In the second half, they were 2 for 15 beyond the arc. So that kills, the offense.
Which I don't know if they were much better in that second half of the Nebraska game, but they just locked Nebraska down enough that it worked out for them. But these are the performances that do still make you question: is this a team that can win a game at the Big Ten tournament, or is this a team that deserves a spot in the field of 68 at the NCAA tournament?
I've seen a lot of that conversation too. I think at this point, I think we're jumping ahead, but who cares? Right now, they would 100% be in.
Okay.
If they lose out, then I think they're on the bubble. There are a lot of people that I've seen on Twitter like, this team isn't in a good spot for the tournament. I think they are. Like, win these next 2 games, and I think you're pretty much in.
Mm-hmm. Let's bring up the schedule if we can. Go ahead and talk as we're talking about these next couple games. 4 games left in the regular season. The Hawkeyes have 2 at home, 2 on the road. Ohio State coming in, who has not played great. I think I saw a stat the other day. They're 0-9 in quad 1 games. Ohio State's are very much a bubble team right now, and so they could really use a win at Carver. So Ohio State's going to be playing their best. Then they go at Penn State, which is certainly the most winnable game left on the schedule, but just never know. The Hawkeyes have lost some of these very winnable games as well. And then it's number 1 Michigan at home, and then number 9 Nebraska on the road. So win 2 of these games and you're still in. I have to think if you lose 3 of these games, then you might be a bubble team going forward, like just because of you've lost a lot of momentum here late in the season.
If you lose how many, you said?
If you lose 3 of these next 4 regular season games, like say you beat Penn State but you lose to Ohio State, Michigan, and Nebraska, I think that a lot of people are really – I'm not saying you're out, but I'm going to say that you're going to very quickly become a bubble team.
So one thing I think that people neglect when they – I'm not saying you are, or maybe I am. Maybe
I may be.
Is when they make statements like that is they have to look at the bubble as well.
That's
and the
true.
teams that they're around.
Sure.
And the one thing good if you're above the bubble is bubble teams aren't like known for winning out.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's true.
So you might think that they're in trouble, but at the end of the day, an 8 seed. Last time I checked on like bracket matrix, they were like the first or second 8 seed.
Okay.
Which bracket matrix, if you're not aware, they take all the bracket projections and then average them out. So it gives you like kind of a good estimate.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa is the second one. Utah State's the first 8 seed. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then all the 11 seeds. So like 15 teams below you, like on the bubble.
Right.
And I would say the bubble is the 11 seed,
mm-hmm.
and the people below that
are usually going to be, like the people below that are usually going to be the mid-major conference tournament winners. By and large. Yeah.
Or high USC's, Ohio State's are on the wrong side of the bubble right now.
Right. Yeah. You make a good point, just like in comparing the resumes of other bubble teams and what they do down the stretch. Right now, the last 4 in are Missouri, Santa Clara, TCU, and New Mexico. Man, that was at the WAC, or I always forget the WAC or the WCC that Gonzaga plays in.
WCC for now.
WCC, yes, for now. They could have 3 teams in this year between Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and Santa Clara, who's been a good team. So then you got TCU, New Mexico. First 4 out, 2 Big Ten teams in the first 4 out between Ohio State and USC. California, San Diego State. Next 4 out, VCU, Virginia Tech, Seton Hall, West Virginia. Yeah, and it's true. Even if Iowa does lose 3 of these next 4 games, I would say that their overall resume this season stacks up pretty well against most of these teams that I see in the last four and in the first four out. I think that if Iowa loses the last four and loses their first Big Ten tournament game, then you might be in some trouble. Because I think that the committee does certainly like to take into consideration a little bit, like
how you're playing.
Exactly, yeah. What kind of momentum you're going in with. Like, you don't want to see a team that's lost. Boy, if that were to happen, that'd be 6 straight games to end the season. So you just need to.
That'd be awful, and that's why this week is so important, don't you think? Like,
yeah, certainly.
Are you going to win against Michigan at home? Probably not. Are you going to win on the road against Nebraska, which that should be a 12? This is like the third week in a row. I forgot to update something. Ohio State's important because they're on the bubble. This would be their first quad one win if they win at Carver on Wednesday. Shut that out. Knock them out of the tournament. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way you should be. This is a tournament game. You're knocking someone out effectively unless they go and win the Big Ten tournament, which I think is highly unlikely. Although Ohio State isn't bad. And Bruce Thornton's a really good player that they have. They gave Michigan State a heck of a game on Sunday on the road in the Breslin Center. So it's going to be a tough game, I think, on Wednesday. I think Penn State, I don't care that they're horrible. They almost beat Michigan at home earlier this year. This was like 2 months ago, but the point remains Iowa lost at Maryland, at Minnesota. Like, they're not the road warriors we thought earlier in the season, remember? So they're two scary games for me as a big Hawkeye fan.
Oh, yeah, big time. And Ohio State's a team that, like, even though they have a terrible record against quad one teams, they have been a team, for me and a lot of AP voters, that's been on the fringe of the top 25 for a lot of the season. Not so much lately, but for the first few months of the year, they were a team that was receiving votes in a lot of the early polls. So people do respect them, and they are a good enough team to. They're a team that can beat anybody in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They haven't, but who knows? That win could be coming at Carver when they play Ohio State on the 25th, which, gosh, that's just on Wednesday.
And I was just talking about how players like Nick Boyd, and Ben made the point today to say Boyd and Thornton are two different players. But Thornton likes to get to the rim. And so can Iowa prevent that from happening without a shot blocker? Can their defense prevent that? Or is he going to be able to, run wild and get to the cup?
Yeah. We're talking a lot about bracketology and projections going forward, and Ben McCollum had a chance to get asked as well if he ever pays attention to bracketology and the projections.
Not at all. I mean, I will tell you this. I'm no Joe Lunardi, but if we win the next game, and then the next game, and the next game, and the next game, it's going to give us a better chance to make the NCAA tournament. I do know that.
So you know Joe Lunardi?
I do know. Well, I used to be a fan. Now I'm a part of it, so I don't pay attention at all. I used to pay attention.
I think that whoever followed up that question misheard him. He said, "I'm no Joe Lunardi," and they asked, "Oh, you know Joe Lunardi?"
I think he meant who he is.
Right. So when he said, "I'm no Joe Lunardi," I think that whoever followed up with that question thought he said, "I know Joe Lunardi," and so on.
No, I meant Ben knows who Joe Lunardi is, not knows him personally, but knows of him.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
I thought the same thing first. He didn't say he knew him personally.
Right. So I don't know if that's what he thought. Nevertheless, yeah. And that's exactly the response I would expect to hear from most coaches, that even though he's not worth paying attention to if you're a coach or a player, guy knows what he's talking about. And I know there's always data each year on his final bracketology, how much it stacks up to what eventually comes to pass. And there might be one or two mistakes every year, he projects one in that doesn't get in, but it's not going to be more than probably two teams that he swings and misses on.
Yeah, I've heard more complaining about Joe about the overall seeding, not the teams in, but his seeding's way off. So, I guess I don't know if that's his goal, but one interesting thing Ben did say is back in his D2 days, he said he would pay attention to it. There's not a bracketology person, but in D2, I guess, and you might know this because I think you covered some D2 up in Sioux City?
Not in Sioux City. They don't really do It's more NAI over there.
I wonder if this is the same way. They said every Tuesday they release their rankings.
Sure.
And that will be used, and it's more mathematical of seeding and who gets in the tournament. And he's like, I had to pay attention to those because they impact hosting, who's going to host, whatnot. So they would, see where they're at, whatever. They talked about how it was more subjective in the D1 level. There's just a committee, and you only know one time a year, and this was last Saturday, where the bracket reveal for the top 16 teams were, all the 4 seeds on Saturday that happened. And then even then, it's only the top 4 seeds in the tournament. So you don't really have it's not like the college football playoff committee where they release their rankings and they're, okay, where am I at? What do I have to get in? It's like you could look at this and say, I guess we have to do this, but you don't actually know if that's true or not. So it was an interesting discussion that he had about, if I knew, Joe Lunardi has an 8 seed. He said that could put, the fear of losing into his team.
Right.
And it doesn't help him prepare for the next game.
Yeah.
And the joke at the beginning of the soundbite was like, well, the only thing we can do is win to, secure your spot.
Right.
So I thought it was funny and interesting at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is taken very differently at these different levels where it's funny. I wonder even if like some of those people who are like voting on those polls at the D2, NAIA, D3 level, if they maybe even pay do they pay more attention to the game or at least results just because you're like if you're an NAIA voter, like you really have to make sure you are clued into what is happening in NAIA ball.
Is there actually like a poll like that? Is that a thing?
Yeah, like NAIA.
He made it seem like it was like computer rankings.
I don't know exactly, who's voting for this poll, if it's all like coaches. Again, I don't know D2. I know NAIA more so from my time over there, and it seems like that is a voting committee, at least for football and, the major sports, football and men's and women's basketball. So there are people out there voting for it. I think it is largely a coaches poll that, like, it's the coaches who are maybe doing it. But
it's hard to keep track of teams like that when they're, it's hard to find them on TV.
You have to be dedicated each night, like to go to the NAI website or the Heart of America or GPAC websites and be checking these scores and box scores and seeing who's doing well. Like, that's tough. So I'm like, maybe those guys are more into it or more knowledgeable because they have to be so dedicated to the craft, not just kind of picking up on what they hear on SportsCenter or still ranking Michigan 15 spots above Iowa in the women's poll. Nevertheless, do we have any more graphics we've got for this show that we want to get to? I don't want to shortchange you on any of the work that you've done putting things together.
No, it's not that big a deal. I don't think so. No, we don't.
Okay, just making sure. Anything that stands out to you as maybe the major thing that the Hawkeyes do need to figure out? I mean, we've talked about a lot of things that the Hawkeyes need to figure out this season to keep winning games. Anything that has newly come to mind to you for over the last couple of games on how to solidify this game? I mean, we've talked about finding that number 2 scorer behind Sturtz. Is there anything else that you think, like, boy, if the Hawkeyes just get this figured out, then
sure,
I'm feeling a lot more confident going into March? I
don't really think so. Do you agree with this take? Like, they are who they are at this point, right? Like, they're not going to figure. There's 4 games left. They're not going to figure anything out.
Yeah.
Fulgaris is up and down. If he plays well, they have a better shot at winning. Mm-hmm. I guess there's some growth that could happen, but I think it's more of a end of a slog kind of thing. Like, they just have to stay focused and hope they catch some teams that are wearing down at the end of the season. Because, like, what could they figure out, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they're not going to figure out the second score. I guess they had 4 players on Sunday in double figures. I just think Wisconsin played better, and they're the better team.
Yeah.
So, like, the one thing that's getting to me is the high that Iowa fans had after Nebraska is almost like as high as the low we're feeling right now. And you lost to a borderline ranked team in Wisconsin that's good, that has amazing wins. They've probably got 2 of the best wins of the season. Stacked up against anyone. They beat Michigan at Michigan, and they beat Illinois. Was that at Illinois? Yeah, at Illinois. So, like, that's a good team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Wisconsin's very good. I mean, there's a reason they were ranked, is that they've had some really off nights in some games where they have a perplexing, head-scratching loss, and then other nights where they play well against the best teams in the country. Like, you just never know what you're going to get out of them either. Yeah, looking at that at the box score, I mean, the stats continue to speak for themselves. I feel like it was a Big Ten coach who had that same type of soundbite recently about, like, kind of asking, what do you got to do to, help this team progress moving forward? And the coach was like, listen, it's February. Like, we are who we are. Like, whatever you see out there, that's pretty much who we're going to be. It's not like we can make any big changes over the next 2 weeks before we get to March. And yeah, that does seem to be what you're going to get out of the Hawkeyes, is that maybe you're going to have a game where and Isaiah Howard puts in 12 points for you, or where Cooper Koch gets to 12, 14 points. But by and large, that this team is riding on what Bennett Sturtz can do and, how many he can drop in for you.
Yeah, 100%. And you wonder, like, one thing that I could see that could totally switch, like, how that season ends right now is, well, if you do win a couple games in this week, if you win 2 and you make the NCAA tournament, get it like a lucky draw, a team that maybe not as tough as you could face.
Right.
B, like if Cooper Koch can just start hitting shots, or just start scoring more. And Ben kind of that's what I was feeling today. And then I listened to Ben talk at his availability this morning. He said something interesting too. And it's roster related, because this roster, like I've talked about, like it's his first year. You have to give him some leeway, but it isn't kind of the roster you want. He says, when you're playing offense like that and you have 4 or 5 shooters, that gives you more leeway to cut and to get to the rim, but it also, when you start rotating the ball, if you have 2 shooters over here that can shoot, the defense can't sag on one, so it makes the shooter's shot easier. Right now they're playing with 2 or 3 shooters on the floor, which is then as a defender, if like Cooper's guy doesn't have to play help defense as much, he can stay on him, and then it's a tougher shot for him. So is that the reason why he's shooting poorly? You'd have to like go game by game, to break it down. But it could lead to tougher shots overall, and that's why he's shooting 2 for 11 every night. Although there are open shots that he's missing, so that can't be the only reason.
Right. I just saw that he played all 40 minutes of that game on Sunday against Wisconsin. I was going to see is that the first time he's put up 40 minutes in a game this year. 34 against Ole Miss, 34 against Maryland, 38 against Minnesota. This is his first 40-minute game of the season. So he seems to be the guy that they are wanting to lean on, or wanting to push more into him as they finish out here. So, boy, by this time next week, when we come for our next Eye on the Hawks, we're gonna have a Big Ten women's tournament preview, I suppose, as we get ready to head out to Indianapolis. Are we gonna have a recording before we actually go out there?
We should, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. That's a good idea. Let's do that. This isn't like the every week I seem to like, all right, what day is the best day? And then I text Owen and stuff like that. But no, let's plan on that. I'd assume we could probably do it on Monday or Tuesday if you're in town, and then we will be doing live podcasts after every Iowa game. So I'm assuming their first game is on Friday in Indianapolis, and then hopefully Saturday, maybe Sunday if they get there.
Okay. Yeah, and that's where you can find us. And we're going to wrap things up for this episode and hopefully be able to talk about a couple of Hawkeye wins by this time we come to you next week. But continue to keep an eye on our social media pages. We've got YouTube and Spotify and all the places that you find your podcasts. So for Mike and Erica, I'm Owen Sebring. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you next time on Eye on the Hawks.
For the longest time, I was distracted between reps. Stressing about my low balance always took me out of my groove. That is, until DePaco added tools to help me see where my money's going, monitoring spending trends and sending tips on how to spend even smarter. I can even set my budget and organize my spending to save more, keeping my expenses down, all while keeping my rep count up. DePaco, your money, your tools. Open an account today. Learn more at depaco.com/shine.